Welcome, brothers. Today we're going to be answering the question, do you need a porn addiction diagnosis?
In the YouTube app, go to notifications and turn on subscriptions. In the settings, go to notifications and scroll to the YouTube app and allow notifications.
We live in a culture where people identify with their dysfunctions. Now, when someone receives a diagnosis, they identify with whatever that particular diagnosis is. So you've heard people say, oh, I'm ADD, I'm ADHD, I'm dyslexic, I'm depressed, whatever it is. And some guys even go as far as to integrate their diagnoses into their personality. So they center their thoughts around this one aspect of their life, and they frame their entire worldview around it. You know, I read a study the other day that said that individuals who believe in the concept of repressed childhood trauma are more likely to find repressed childhood trauma when they speak to a therapist. On the other hand, those who don't believe in the concept tend not to uncover any repressed childhood trauma. I find that very interesting. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that no one experiences childhood trauma or that some people don't repress experiences from when they were young. I just do think it's interesting that the beliefs we adopt leave us susceptible to certain things. The culture you're raised in frames your worldview. And there's no denying the rise in people who are identifying with their diagnoses. They don't realize how much embodying these medical labels limits their potential. When you enclose yourself in the box of a diagnosis, you cut yourself off from so much possibility. So if you're considering seeking out a psychologist for a diagnosis, you might want to reconsider, because there are alternative approaches to controlling your out-of-control behavior that don't require you to slap a label on yourself. If the goal is to end your out-of-control behavior, shouldn't you do it through the most effective avenue possible? Let's speak briefly about therapists and porn addiction. A therapist's job is to help you expose the root causes of issues that you have in your everyday life, at least depending on the modality they practice. So they dive into your history and they look for experiences that explain your current troubles. And this is a great approach for people who struggle with serious mental illnesses that affect the quality of their lives. Although your pornography addiction probably affects the quality of your life, it's not a mental or a moral issue. It's not something that a few sessions of weekly talk therapy is going to solve. You might even know this from experience after trying it yourself 1 or 2 times. So therapists are fantastic at helping people overcome and learn to live with their mental illness, again, depending on the modality. But unless you also deal with some sort of mental health issue, a therapist probably isn't the best bet for you just to end your out-of-control behavior with pornography. They'll encourage you to dig deep into areas that might not even be problematic. And you could find yourself running in circles trying to uncover the source of your behavior. What I found over the years, at least with the men who are in our porn reboot groups, is that they're usually not dealing with any serious mental health issue. Now, you might experience feelings of anxiety or depression as a result of hiding your out-of-control behavior or dealing with it for a long period of time, but that's not the same thing as a diagnosable depressive disorder. Once you start addressing your porn addiction, you'll notice that these feelings actually dissipate, especially when you use a system. Let's speak briefly about success, and specifically character defects and character assets when it comes to successful men. Now, most of the men who reach out for help in the porn reboot system are highly driven, ambitious, high-performing men who still find themselves trapped by their problems. So they've often received the diagnosis at one time or another, and it's proven to be a sticking point in their reboots. So labeling their addiction and out-of-control behavior, it did nothing to limit its impact on them. In fact, it sometimes made it worse. See, a lot of successful men display strong assertive characteristics, things like self-assurance and confidence and other things. But these might often be labeled as narcissistic traits depending on how you handle them and who you ask. So if you go looking for therapeutic input, you might find yourself second-guessing the parts of your personality that actually make you a successful man. And you might end up being encouraged to label these traits as character defects when in reality, they are often character assets. So as long as you don't use them to, dominate or overpower when it's not appropriate, these are great things. These are characteristics that make you successful. You can't ignore the liabilities that come with these traits, that it takes to be successful. There are true defects of character in plenty of high-performing successful men who struggle with sexually compulsive behavior. And I notice things like, the tendency to exaggerate a lot, being overly sensitive to criticism, difficulty controlling emotions, being excessively paranoid, and having a really grandiose view of themselves. But there is a fine line between character assets and character defects. They can be helpful traits when you use them to better yourself and the world around you. And a lot of top performers don't rise to where they are by rolling over and taking no for an answer. They often have lofty dreams, they have ambitions, and they have to work hard and be determined. So you don't want to end up slapping a diagnosis on yourself and then overanalyzing your characteristics, because there's a healthy balance that you can work toward that doesn't require you to receive a diagnosis. Understanding the causes of your behavior is critical if you want to end your out of control behavior permanently. And I found over the years working with hundreds of men that it's unlikely that you're going to find the answer on a therapist's couch. The Porn Reboot system sees the causes of your behavior as a biological problem. Trying to overcome them through behavioral therapy or moral convictions is literally fighting against your biology. You're on the fast track, or worse, the slow track to failure, when you fight things that are a part of you, your biology. Instead, implementing a system like the one we use at Porn Reboot leads to lasting change. And it's the only thing that I found that has worked for hundreds of specifically ambitious high performers. It basically teaches you to take control of the narrative in your life rather than allowing outside people, professionals, and influences to dictate it for you. Now, you might struggle with a porn addiction or compulsive sexual behavior, but that doesn't reflect on you as a person. It doesn't mean that you're bad. It doesn't mean that you're immoral or that you're hopeless. It simply means that you didn't develop the ability to properly cope with certain situations without turning to porn or certain behaviors to calm you down. So knowing this really provides reassurance that you can change that situation. You can start developing and working on a set of skills and coping strategies to rewire your brain. You learn to cope, and you won't need pornography, masturbation, or sex to do so, right? So I want to reassure you that you don't have to go get a diagnosis if you feel that it's not what you need, right? If it's going to risk your marriage, your career, your happiness, or your future, a diagnosis is not necessary. You don't have to place a label on yourself to implement the system that we use here at Porn Reboot. In fact, you're probably better off without it, okay? So if you're ready to make a change, you can start taking the steps to overcome your addiction and compulsive behaviors today. Check out some of the posts on our blog on elevatedrecovery.org. Check out this YouTube channel. We've got a lot of videos. Tune into the Porn Reboot podcast on Spotify and iTunes, and join our free Facebook group. There are links in the description below this video. We've had brothers work through their behaviors through the wide range of free resources that we offer. So if you choose to approach your reboots, again, a reminder, you don't need a diagnosis to do it. We're here to help you in this struggle, and we're available to support you every step of the way.
Whenever you're ready, here are 4 ways that Porn Reboot can help you out for free. The first way is to subscribe to our channel and make sure you click on the notification bell to get a new video every other day. The second way is to get a copy of the free book, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men. You'll learn about my personal struggle and the lessons I've learned over a decade, as well as strategies for putting together your porn reboot plan and ending your compulsive behavior with pornography or masturbation. So click on the link in the description below this video. The third way is if you're not sure where to start, but you'd like to learn more about my team and I, if you'd like to spend time with like-minded professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners, guys who work in sales, consulting, or high-level jobs, men who are controlling their behavior, then join our free and confidential group, the Porn Reboot group on Facebook. There's also a link to join in the description below this video. And finally, if you need help right now because you have a burning issue, your behavior with pornography is hurting you mentally, you're about to lose your relationship, you want to live up to your potential, you want to be an authentic man and free yourself from shame, guilt, and underachieving, click on the link in the description below this video that says free coaching call, or visit elevatedrecovery.org and click on the link which says book a call.